Now, this would not have been a section in one of these streams just a handful of years ago. But then it's also true I wouldn't have been streaming on Twitch. So I don't know why I mentioned that. Anyway, I don't think I'll get to all of them, all of these kind of resources, or even close to all of them this time. But there are a few places on the internet that might be worth a visit. And if you've forgotten about them or don't know about them, this is probably a useful announcement of some kind. Also, there might be some mockery coming. You never know. Drive-Thru RPG is a website that allows everyone, from major publishers to individual enthusiasts, to put their content on a web-based marketplace. Now, on the site, you can upload your content, and when I say you can upload your content, I mean, yes, you can. Anyone can. And you can sell it to the people who need it. You can make it free, or make it available for donations, rather than a fixed price. It's even got a print-on-demand function, so some items are offered in both digital and physical versions, for those people who need a book to hold, or want one for their style of gameplay, or just for their shelves. There are a few other useful things that make the site really handy. Not just the practicalities of being able to see reviews of the things you're looking at, but a sense of activity coming through the comments. You can get a feeling of how widely downloaded something is, or how many people are talking about it. Roll20 is a virtual tabletop, and it can accept almost any kind of map, allow you to obscure parts of it, place tokens on it, and then share it and make a communal space for everyone to use. I've used it a handful of times, and it seems very nicely handled. It supports most game systems because, at its heart, it's very adaptable, but it's most suitable for fantasy-style games because the character and monster markers are mainly configured for a roughly 5-foot scale. Traveller, for example, also uses a 1.5 metre scale, which is about the same for those doing the conversion in their heads. But in Traveller, you might have to cope with much bigger maps, and simply Roll20 is not suited to changing scales. It also doesn't handle a few other things, like maps of arbitrary dimensions, like range bands, particularly well, because it assumes the placement of a token will always be inside a single square, or multiples of thereof. Still, it's pretty good, and more flexible than its nearest rival, Fantasy Battlegrounds, which is more slick in presentation, perhaps, but less adaptable to different systems. I'm also fairly confident, last time I checked, that Roll20 offers a free account, but Fantasy Battlegrounds doesn't. Now, Hero Forge is a website that allows you to make images and models of characters for RPGs. It has templates for characters for many common games, including for Traveller, so Aslan and Varga characters can be created as easily as human. And naturally, its support for D&D is even more impressive. Now, Luke, who does most of the graphics for Boys from the Baltic Star, has used Hero Forge extensively, and the results can be seen in our character images, statistics cards, icons, even our break card in the middle of our streams. This is not an area in which I have any personal experience, but I can tell you that the product is really, really super. Now, if you play Dungeons & Dragons, you'll probably be familiar with D&D Beyond. It's the official D&D character app and rules resource. So if you do have a warlock, for example, even if she's as perfect as you can make her, you might find that maintaining organisation and tracking of her weapons and supplies, for example, could be a challenge. With this tool, your character is more likely to prosper in a gnoll-infested mineshaft, for example, despite your personal level of disorganisation. Just saying. Now, I'm not sure if I'm right about this, at least not entirely, but I think it might be true that the rise of microblogging sites like Facebook and Twitter has led to a bit of a decline in the use of traditional forums, the websites that replaced bulletin boards. That's the computer bulletin boards, not the literal things nailed to a wall in a corridor. Anyway, it turns out there are often official forums that have been created and are maintained by publishers and distributors of games. They can be found lurking on the main websites of the publishers, and they can be excellent. Now, the link on the screen is to Mongoose's one for their games. Mongoose is the publisher of Traveller and Paranoia, among other games, and they maintain a fairly active forum that has resources for all sorts of things, but including a directory of local games that people can join if they're at a loose end and want to try something. Now, search engines are amazing things. The best thing is that they are capable of scanning an entire internet for the information you need. The worst thing is that because of the sheer scale of the information available, you really need to know exactly what you're looking for. There are some really excellent resources that can be found this way, though. For D&D players, you'll often find creative people have drawn some beautiful maps for you to use, replacing the more basic ones in a module. Traveller players might find they can get access to remarkable ship graphics. Given the search engine the best possible chance to help you out by giving it as much specific information as possible, and you'll be amazed at the wonderful stuff out there that people have created for their own games and then shared with the world. Oh, and here's a weird thing, because I enjoy telling weird stories. Do you know that Google isn't spelt correctly? The people who designed the search engine wanted to use the word Google, which is a special number in mathematics, representing the number 1 with 100 zeros after it, which is a very big number indeed. But that number, the Google, is spelt Googol, and they didn't know that, so they misspelled the name of their company. I mean, these days, if they needed to know how to spell the word, they could just have binged it. So that's it for this time. Many thanks once again for joining me, and I hope you found some entertainment in it. Now, tomorrow night is Traveller, our ongoing campaign, now with 17% extra violence, for one night only. And on Saturday we're playing the second part of last week's one-shot game, Pig at a Wedding, with Sparrow joining the crew for the madness. And on Sunday, Luke plays Hellblade, just about the most beautiful game I've ever seen, and very slightly spooky. And until we meet again, may all your rolls be crits, and good night.